What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Real Talk Real Estate with David Greene. I am your host, and today's show topic is going to be, what's my end game? We're going to be talking about ways to get out of the rat race that you hate. Why do we call it a rat race anyways? We should have covered that. It's so rude to rats. It also assumes that work is bad. This is a terrible, terrible message we've been telling people for a long time. I'm going to answer questions from you, the listeners, about how you can get out of a job you like, what other options that you might have, how to build wealth through real estate. Is cash flow the right way to escape your W-2, or have you been lied to? We're going to laugh, we're going to think, and we're going to learn, all on today's show of Real Talk Real Estate. All right, our first question comes from Mark Hansen. I actually know Mark. Great guy. Met him at one of my retreats that I do. This one was at my Scottsdale Airbnb that I own with Rob. We did a 4-day intensive retreat on real estate investing. The dude came out. He is a pretty solid guy. Has a real estate agent business, a landscaping business, young entrepreneur in his mid-20s. And he says, what's your end game, David? Good question, Mark. I've had the dream for a long time of being able to provide real estate services for everybody that wants to be a real estate investor, and that includes education. So you got to have some motivation, some education, some direction, some teaching, some training, some coaching, and maybe even some guardrails. Like, hey, don't go this way. Don't try that. I think that there needs to be more of that in the industry. That's why we call this Real Talk Real Estate, because you're going to get hyped a lot of an image of real estate investing that's not accurate. And that's because it's easier to sell you courses that way, or get clicks and views, which also turn into money through YouTube algorithms and podcast algorithms and advertising dollars. I try to tell people what could go wrong, what they should avoid, much more than some other people do. So that's been the goal. How do I create a real estate agent? How do I create a real estate brokerage, a real estate sales team, a real estate mortgage company, a real estate insurance company, a property management company that I can provide services to investors? So if they want to get into this and they want a person they can trust, they like following me, they like my advice, they know that they can go somewhere and not get ripped off. So Coast to Coast Real Estate, that's the name of my real estate agent brokerage. If you're a real estate agent and you want a place to hang your license where you'll get good training, well, send me a message. We should talk about that. Coast to Coast Getaways is the name of my property management company. Right now, we only manage short-term rentals, but if you're tired of managing your own short-term rental, or maybe you want it to perform better than what it has been doing, especially if you're open to some feedback, we can manage your short-term rental for you. The One Brokerage, that's the name of my mortgage company. We finance real estate all across the country. There's nobody better. And then Spartan League is the name of my real estate university. It's also a mastermind. This is the group where I coach the members. They get 5 calls a week from my instructor core. So the people that teach the group are the same people that run my company. So the short-term rental teachers are the people that run my short-term rentals. The real estate salespeople and the mortgage officer, you guessed it, they're the people that run those companies with me. The people that manage my properties, teach people how to manage properties. The people that represent me when I'm buying, teach you what you should look for in an agent. So that's one of my end games. The other one I would say is to get to a point where I can share anything in life that helped me. So growing up, I was taught certain philosophies about how you're supposed to live, how you're supposed to think. When I got older, I realized those don't actually work very well. In fact, some of them even come with an agenda. So as I meet people that I care about, I share some of that information with them, and I hope someday I can do that from a platform. Right now, I think people just mostly want to hear about how they can build wealth, how they can save money, how they can buy real estate, the things that I did. But hopefully someday people recognize that there's a deeper wisdom out there that will help them be happier, and they'll come to me for content on how to have better friendships, better relationships, better walk with God, things in life that matter outside of just money. Thanks for the question, though, Mark. Hope things are going good for you. All right, we've got another question coming up, but first, a quick break. Today's show is sponsored by Spartan League. Spartan League is my real estate university mastermind. Spartan League members get 5 calls a week on different real estate topics, including BRRRR, long-distance real estate investing, short-term rentals, medium-term rentals, long-term rentals, construction, floor plan changing, portfolio architecture, inspiring calls from other real estate investors that we bring in, like people on the Bigger Pockets podcast, to share how they built wealth through real estate, coaching calls, budgeting/defense calls, and more. You also get access to an exclusive online community of real estate investors and discounts on other events I offer, like retreats, accelerator courses, etc. If you want to know more about Spartan League, DM me the word Spartan or email mastermind@davidgreen24.com. All right, let's get to our next question. All right, our next question is actually several comments to a question that I asked. So I said, how do you know when you guys have made it on my Instagram? If you're not following me on Instagram, you can follow me there. Anywhere else, just type in @DavidGreen24. And a lot of you responded to that. So here's what some of the answers were. You know you've made it when you drive a white Mercedes. That's from Russell. When I get on a podcast with David Greene from Lando. When you get $7,000 a month in cash flow, from Pat. And when I have no debt, I have steady residual income, and I could retire today if I wanted to from Caressa. All right, so we've got a mix of practicality, $7,000 a month, no debt. We've got some jokes, driving a white Mercedes. And then we've also got some humor there from Landon, going by Lando, saying, when I get on a podcast with David Green. Well, Lando, maybe I will bring you on to this show. We'll have you on Real Talk Real Estate. I believe I know who Lando is, and he is currently, if I'm not mistaken, the top real estate agent in the entire state of Arizona. By the way, that reminds me, if you guys want a referral to a real estate agent somewhere, make sure you send me an email or make sure you send me a DM, and I'll get you connected to someone on my team that will put you to one of the agents that we have worked with in the past or that I have bought with myself. So we can avoid you working with a bad agent. We can also get you pre-approved so that I know you're not getting ripped off. All right, I asked another question about endgames, and I said, what do you need to know to get to your endgame? All right, our next question comes from Candace Buckstead, who says, hi, David. My end goal is to create passive income that can replace my W-2. What are some of the best ways to do this in real estate? All right, Candace, I'm about to crush your dream, but don't worry. I'm going to give you a better dream at the end of it. This is a huge, huge, huge misconception in the world of real estate. I am honest about this. Not everyone is, and it makes them angry. There are a lot of other influencers, especially, that come after me or talk bad about me around other people saying, David says you can't build wealth through real estate. Not true. David says cash flow is bad. Not true. David says passive income doesn't matter. Not true. Here's what I do believe. If you're trying to replace your W-2 income because you don't like working, welcome to life. None of us really love working. The thing you got to realize is W-2 income is relatively stable. One of the most stable forms of income there is. Not many people in America wonder, am I actually going to get paid for the work I do? And if I don't, there's a pretty strong judicial system to make sure you do. Most people just don't like having to do the work a W-2 requires. That's the price you pay for stability. But it's very easy to think about what we don't like and then forget about the benefits of what we're doing. When you leave a W-2 and you try to live off of purely rental income, meaning rent that your tenants pay you to use your property, you are trading a very stable source of income for a very unstable source of income. It's not apples to apples. $5,000 in rental income is not the same as $5,000 a month from your job. This is what I want you to understand. The unstable income goes away. The tenant loses their job, goes to Vegas, runs up medical bills, goes on a bender, decides that they just don't want to pay you. You don't get income. You have to pay for an eviction. You might have several months of no income and then a big bill on top of it. Your HVAC breaks. You get a roof leak that needs to be repaired. The whole roof needs to be replaced. Your furnace goes out. Your hot water heater goes out. Your sewer lateral goes out. You have sewage leaks. You get mold issues. A tenant throws a party in your house and you have to clean it all up. A tree falls over during a storm. I could go on and on and on. This is the reality of owning real estate. It builds big wealth. It does not provide consistent, reliable cash flow. Most people should not even consider living off their cash flow until they have owned an asset for a long time. I'm talking 15, 20, 25 years. That's how long it takes to get those assets stabilized, oftentimes paid off, so that even if you don't make as much money as you thought, you still have a good amount coming in. I don't think that you should try to replace active income with passive income, okay? I do think you can replace active income from a job you don't like with active income from a job you do. And this is my message to everyone. I talk about this in Pillars of Wealth. You can buy it on Amazon. You can head over to biggerpockets.com/pillars. BiggerPockets published this book. It's the best job I could do at providing some wise financial advice. If you're going to leave your job, start a business. Be an entrepreneur where you own a business, or be an intrapreneur where you work in someone else's business. I own several businesses. I talked about them earlier. The One Brokerage, the David Green Team, Coast to Coast Real Estate, Coast to Coast Getaways. Those businesses employ intrapreneurs who are 1099 employees who left a job they didn't like to come work in one of my companies and make more money. It is not as stable as their W-2, but it is more stable than rental income. It is on a spectrum and it's on a healthier part in it. They then make money through real estate commissions, through loans, through real estate sales, through getting paid for managing properties, etc. They use that money to invest in real estate. They also get tax write-offs that they wouldn't have got if they were a W-2 worker, which means they keep more of the money that they make. They then invest it into real estate, which grows their wealth. They then get tax advantages from buying the real estate, which helps them retain wealth. They learn more about real estate by owning it, which helps them do a better job serving other people, getting their loans and serving them as a real estate agent, which makes them more money to buy more real estate, and you're in a healthy cycle. That's what we're trying to create here. Momentum in a good direction. It's just like if you eat well, you're probably going to work out. If you work out, you're going to want to eat well. Now you got more energy during the workout. Now you do a better workout, so you don't want to go eat bad, and you're in a positive, virtuous cycle, as opposed to the vicious cycle, which is you skip a workout, so you eat crappy to feel better. Now you don't want to work out because you got no energy, so now you feel like bad about yourself, so you go eat more bad food, and you end up in a vicious cycle. Finances work in a very similar way. So here's what I'm getting at. Don't try to replace it with income from real estate that is rental income. Replace it with income from real estate that is real estate commissions, business income, income from flipping homes, income from managing other people's properties. Think like an entrepreneur that works within real estate, not like an investor that's owned real estate for 50 years already. All right, our next question is from Lewis. And he says, how does real estate become your main income, and is it possible? This is a great question. Everybody on the end game thing is trying to figure out this cash flow problem. And I want everyone listening to understand you're not the only one who's wondering. In fact, many of you are probably sitting there saying, but David, didn't you tell me that the goal was to buy the real estate so that I could then retire? No, I never told you that. Many of my contemporaries did. And I tried to very subtly and with class poke some holes in that way of thinking. I probably tried to tell you, no, I don't think that's your best bet. In fact, I think that you should not live off cash flow. I never have. Folks, I want you to think about this. I was a waiter, and I saved up all my money waiting tables while I was in college. I talk about this story in Pillars of Wealth. I graduated college with my school completely paid for from money waiting tables. My car completely paid for, paid cash for it. No debt. Took me 5 years to get out of school because I changed my major from business to psychology, which is funny because now I work in business. And over $100,000 in the bank. When everyone else was graduating owing $50,000, $60,000, I graduated with $100,000 saved, and all I did was wait tables. Just saved up all my money, worked a lot, put a system together, and maximized how much I made. That, by today's dollars, would probably be around $200,000 to $250,000 saved. I then went on and got a job as a deputy sheriff. As a deputy sheriff, I bought real estate because I now had W-2 income, that thing everybody hates. I used the money from waiting tables as my down payment to buy those houses. I moved from a deputy sheriff to a police officer, got paid more, had better benefits, had better overtime, bought a lot more real estate. Still working that W-2 job, capitalizing on overtime. When it was time to move on from being a cop, I did have rental income coming in, but I never lived off it. I immediately started selling houses as a real estate agent. I did not just say, you know what, I'm going to cross my fingers and hope for the best and pray that every tenant makes their payment. And I didn't even have a family. I could have did that. I was single, no kids, no girlfriend, no wife. I could have moved back in with my mom and if I needed to, if something got really bad. I had a strong safety net. I didn't take advantage of it. I threw myself into my next career, which was a form of entrepreneurialism. I went from being a real estate agent to being the top agent in my office in the first year. A lot of that was just, if I'm being frank with you guys here, I had luck. I had very strong mentors. Dave Osborne, one of the founders of GoBundance, got me connected with Keller Williams, got me in the room with guys like Jay Papasan and eventually Gary Keller. I learned from Gary Keller's teachings. I had other top real estate agents, one of my best friends, Daniel Del Real in Modesto, California, taught me how to sell houses. My first agent that helped me buy houses, Cindy Foster in Manteca, taught me how to sell houses also. I really did get good coaching and good training, which is one of the reasons I like to provide that to other people, because that's what I got. And I did well. I then grew that into a real estate team because Gary Keller taught me how to take your job and turn it into a business. And that's what I did. Now I have a real estate sales team and I have money coming in. Have I always had rental income? Yes. Have I ever lived off of it? No. Are you guys picking up the pattern here? It's unpopular. No one wants to hear this. I'm telling you, a fool, especially a person who has a family that depends on them, relies on somebody else to get by. A fool relies on their tenant to pay rent, hoping that happens. That doesn't mean that rental income is bad. If you're living off rental income right now and it's stable, I am happy for you. There is no ill wishes here. But if you got young ones at home and you don't have a lot of money saved, you're sitting on $100,000, $200,000 in the bank, you want to do this, you got plenty of runway. You can go get a job if it doesn't work out. But if that's not the case, I'm not going to tell you that that's a good idea. In fact, the investors I know that do this tend to let their properties fall into disarray. They often go Section 8, or they go small multifamily, and these are the slum lords. These are the people that don't fix up the properties, that force their tenants to live in squalor. And most of these tenants don't have other options of where else they can move to because they're already in low income housing and there's not lower income housing. And this is why landlords get a bad reputation. I know there's a few of you saying, yes, David, say it louder for the people in the back. It's unpopular to say it, but this is why I say it. This is why real estate investors have so many people that hate us. We don't take care of the properties. We don't take care of the tenants. We need that money to pay for ourselves, to put food in our bellies, to pay for our kids' clothes. And so that tenants have to live in a condition we would never want to live in. Their kids have to suffer because the landlord is putting themselves first. It should never be like that. You should always be taking care of your property. You should always be making it worth as much as it can. You should always be improving it. When you die and you hand those properties off to your family or whoever you give them to, they should be inheriting a good asset, not a rundown piece of junk. So again, to answer the question, how does real estate become your main income that Luis is asking? It's going to be active income. It's going to be through owning rental properties and managing other people's rental properties. It's going to be through owning rental properties and doing rehab work and flipping houses and doing construction work also. Taking the crew that flips your houses and letting other real estate investors use them to fix up their house when those people aren't busy. Basically, my philosophy is that we as humans should be taking on more responsibility, not trying to push responsibility onto other people. And that is why I am often unpopular with other influencers, because whoever wants to hear someone say, you should take more responsibility for this. You should be taking responsibility for keeping those people that work for you employed. You should be taking responsibility for making sure people are productive. You should be taking responsibility for making sure you yourself are productive. And if you do that, life and the financial gods will smile upon you, my friend. All right, this next segment of the show I call the comment section. This is where we take comments from my YouTube, from Facebook, from Instagram, from Twitter, from my website, from my newsletter, which if you guys want to get that, it's completely free and it's pretty cool. DM me the word join on Instagram and you'll get a link where you can sign up for it. And we read those comments for everyone to hear. Oftentimes they are funny, sometimes they are insightful, but always they are entertaining. Our first comment comes from Douglas Clark, who says, how do I grow a beast mode beard like yours, David, and crush it in real estate fundraising? Thank you, sir, from Douglas Clark. Well, if you're watching this on YouTube, you will notice my beard is no longer quite the beast that it was. Definitely isn't a beauty, but it's definitely not a beast. If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can't tell, so take it from me. The beard is no longer crazy big like it was at one point. Probably went about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years without shaving, just trimmed it a little bit. And if I'm being honest with you, I feel like it never got out of its puberty stage. I kept waiting for it to just get bigger and thicker, and then I could trim it down into something that I liked, and it never did. It just kind of stayed a little too sporadic and stringy, and so I've shaved it down a lot. I have noticed a few observations. One, my male fan base loves the big beard and says very nice things about it. The handful of women that do follow me don't like it as much. My mom was definitely not a fan. My aunts were very nice about it, but they were not a fan. The people that work with me, you know how it is. What are you really trying to go for there? It was not as popular with the female fan base. And so you make some people happy, you don't make other people happy. I don't think the beard is what you got to focus on, Doug. If you're looking to crush it in real estate fundraising, you got to find great deals, and that's very hard to come by right now. So if you're struggling with this, don't feel bad. Everyone is struggling right now. The last deal that I raised money for offered a 15% cash-on-cash return, and people didn't want to do it. Can you believe that? It was like the safest bet you'll ever find. It was an incredible deal. We opened it up, my partner Andrew and I, for other people. We did raise some money, but it wasn't as much as what I thought. And now everyone's losing money. Why? Because they wanted an 18% return, and they went with other way riskier investments that didn't do well. So if you're one of those people who is hurting right now, your investments are doing bad, just keep in mind, you should probably join my newsletter and keep an eye out for the next deal that comes along, because I typically only offer them to other people if they are a slam dunk. The riskier stuff I keep for myself. All right, our next comment. What do you think will be the top 5 real estate markets in the U.S. in the next 5 years for appreciation and rent growth? This comes from Dylan Peters. I think I know why you're asking this, Dylan. Dylan raises money. He's got a fund himself to invest, and he's trying to figure out where to put it. All right, I am not doing research on this, everybody, so no, this is not financial advice. I didn't even take 2 seconds to look through and actually answer this. I'm trying to do this spitfire. So I'm going to tell you where I think regions are that you should consider investing in, but just don't go Google this and be like, David Green didn't get it right. There's actually only 1 or 2 of these that were in the top 5. Okay, off the top of my head, I like areas in the Midwest and the South right now. For years, I've said don't invest in the Midwest because we were talking about $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 junkers. Not the case. A lot of people are moving out that way for affordable housing, and there will be a continual hunger for affordable housing more than ever. So states that I previously was like, stay away from, like Ohio, I'm a fan of it. Be in Ohio. I think that's a solid market to be in. Alabama, I'm a fan of that market for sure. Arkansas, I think we're going to see a not even a rejuvenation. What's ever happened in Arkansas that was exciting? It's coming. Arkansas is going to have its renaissance, and I think it is going to be a great place to invest, and a lot of people are going to move there. I'm a fan of Oklahoma, especially if you're somebody who wants to invest in areas with more conservative values. That is an isolated area that has some wonderful people, and I think that more people are going to be moving there. And I think Michigan has a lot of room to run as well. Great question there, Dylan. All right, for my next comments, I'm going to go to my Instagram, where my social media posted a post that said, rental income is a terrible way to replace the W-2 that you hate. Change my mind. Let's look at what some of the comments were. There is a total of 487 comments on this post that has over 3,000 likes. And I want you guys to get a little taste of what it's like to be in a real estate influencer's shoes. If you've ever wondered what it's like to be David Green, this is a big part of it. All right. Huron Gracie says, I'm here for the comments. I'm going to go ahead and heart that right now. Huron is a buddy of mine, really solid dude who, by the way, if you're ever in a fight, Huron's one of the guys you want at your side. So Huron, if you see this, thank you. Also, you didn't defend me whatsoever, so what is up with that? One rental at a time, I believe that's Michael Huber, said, worked great for me. That's a great way for me to address this. It does not mean that you cannot replace your income with rental income. Nothing in this post says you can't do it. It says it's a terrible way to do it. Just think about it, right? There are terrible ways to exercise, but does that mean you can't get fit doing some kind of exercise even if it's terrible? No, it'll work. And I have a feeling Michael Huber is an incredibly detail-oriented guy. I don't know. I have never met him. I think that he interviewed me on his podcast years ago. That's how I know his name. My guess would be he's very good at this, and he is incredibly detail-oriented, and he thinks about the future a lot. Like he really, every single property, looks at every single thing that could go wrong. He's in the 1% of people that think that way. The 99% don't. And I'm not going to recommend a way to invest in real estate that works for the 1% of people. Now, again, it can work. You give it long enough and it'll work. It's a terrible way to do it. There's so many better ways. All right. Badass Investor, Ashley Wilson, says the real debate is over whether you Photoshop this or if you really hold coffee like this. That's because they took a picture of, I think, Steven Crowder, who's the change of my mind guy, and they stuck my beautiful bald head on his face, and he's holding a cup of coffee. I don't drink coffee, actually. I try to get into it, especially as a cop. It's just disgusting. I don't know how any of you guys do it. I have made myself drink coffee. I am mentally tough enough to do it. I am capable of it. I hate it. It is gross. And so no, you'll rarely ever see me drink coffee. Indar Hawaii in Brandon Turner's Better Life Tribe says, I mean, if you don't like your rentals, I'll take them off your hands. And I said, I love them, but I don't rely on their rental income to support myself. Lindsay Izkirka, the leader of the David Green team SoCal, is clapping her hands. She is someone who owns rental property herself and has seen that the cash flow is often a mirage. Mikhail Grant, Spartan League member, says, you're choosing violence today, LOL. I think that's pretty funny. Billy Schneider, realtor, says, what is the business income coming from? What businesses? What am I missing? I'm guessing that Billy was responding to a reply I had made where I said, yeah, I don't think you should live off rental income. I think you should live off business income. By the way, the one rental at a time, Michael Huber comment, he makes income from more than just real estate. He sells books. He does a YouTube channel. It's monetized. He may sell courses. I'm guessing that he does. Do you think that might have something to do with the advice of saying, I live off my rental income and you can too, when they're making income from more than one place, which is the same thing that I'm telling all of you to do? Fit Boise, agent on the David Green team, sent 3 laughy cry faces. Jeremy Hunter, JH Hawaii, another retreat member that went to he actually might have been at the same retreat that Mark Hansen was at, funny enough, said it is a great way, but maybe 15 years after you buy, not now. Great point. Hello Romy said, at Alexis Lee Real Estate, what do you think of this? I looked at Alexis Lee Real Estate's page, and she is a real estate agent. It's funny how we're tagging people to say they live off rental income who have jobs that are still working. I'm just trying to pull back the curtain and show everybody who's listening to Real Talk Real Estate what is actually going on. Don't listen to what people say. Look at what they do. JJ Watch 45 says facts in all caps. Arrowhead 85-137 says, all the folks asking why obviously don't read your books or listen to Seeing Green, which I appreciate, because that's true. If you actually listen to me, you've heard me say this many times. Shavarsh says, you just want engagement. Change my mind, with a laugh face. And I said, no, I truly believe this. I've said it so many times. Anyone who has listened to me consistently has heard the same message. Karina says, at David Green 24, it would be ridiculous to quit your W-2 job with benefits, ability to secure mortgages, and get a pension. Keep multiple W-2 jobs to fund real estate. I agree with your statement and won't try to change your mind. Casey Naya says, this is a surprising 180 turnaround from BP's repeated theme of retiring with rentals. I wonder what is the root cause of such a drastic change in BP's message. To which I said, this isn't BP's message, it's mine. BP is a platform that offers voices to lots of people and opinions vary. Ask anyone who's owned single-family rentals for a long time if they would have risked raising a family solely on rental income alone. And they replied, thank you for providing your opinion. Obviously, you have a wealth of knowledge to base it off of. I was just surprised to hear a totally different take on this than so many other BP speakers. What makes retiring off of rental income so risky in your opinion? Would you say retiring with 50-plus single-family houses of Section 8 rentals would be as risky? Thanks. Great point. And we'll wrap up the comment section there. No, it is not as risky to do Section 8. It is not as risky when you have 50 of them. Like I said, it is possible to do this, okay? So when I say it's a terrible way to do it, don't listen to haters that come in and say, David says it can't be done, well, I did it. I never said it can't be done. It's a terrible way to do it. You see what I'm getting at here? And on the BP point, let me just make a message there. There was a time where Brandon Turner and I were sort of the lone voice and spoke for BP. We were the figureheads of that company, Bigger Pockets, and we would get on the same page before we gave financial or real estate investing advice to anyone because we didn't want confusion. The architecture and structure of Bigger Pockets has changed so much. They have all kinds of different people. They have all kinds of different podcasts. They have all kinds of different opinions. Now you may hear me say something and a different BP personality say something completely different, and I don't love it. In fact, it became a problem that I was so closely tied with BP that my brand was Bigger Pockets, and when someone said something on there that was disingenuous or I disagreed with, it looked like it was me saying it. So that's why we have Real Talk Real Estate, so I can share my take, my perspective, the way I see things, and you guys don't have to worry about getting confused. All right, moving on. We're going to get into the quick hitters section. In this section, I go through some quick questions that people ask or comments they made and share them with you. First question, what's your daily protein intake? From Jake. Jake, I so wish I could answer that. I don't know, man. I really should. I know the answer I'm supposed to give is you're supposed to eat your body weight in protein grams or something like that, which most people in front of a microphone will just say what they're supposed to say. The truth is, I don't know. This is real talk. I try to eat as much protein. Let me say that a different way. When I eat, I try to eat as much protein with each meal as I can. So I just try to always put protein first, and then it works out however it works out. Hopefully someday if I find a Mrs. Green and that person takes care of me, you guys will see me ripped and buff because they're making sure I get all the protein that I need. But I tend to not put as much of a priority on that as I do on the other things in my workday. What kind of car do you drive? From Corinne. Well, it's not a Lambo. It's not a Ferrari. It's not a Beamer, and it's not a Benz. I drive a 2017 Toyota Camry, and I've really never had an expensive car other than the one that I mentioned to you guys in the beginning of the show when I said I graduated college with my car paid for. Probably the most expensive car I've ever owned. It was a Mercury Cougar with a Roush package on it that at the time was very cool. Nobody had one. There was only 100 of them ever made. And I was young and stupid and spent a lot of money on that car, and I ended up missing out on a potential house to flip because I was $7,000 short. The flip would have made me $35,000, and I was so bothered by my stupid financial decisions that I never did it again. And now that the economy is getting tough and things are getting really hard, I'm glad that I don't have an expensive car payment. Great question, though. I'm going to have to get another one because I'm going to move, and I'm going to keep some of my stuff in California, like my car, and I'm going to move to another state somewhere in the South, and I'm going to need to get another car. So let me know in the comments of this video, what kind of car do you think I should get? What do you see me driving? Why do you still live in California? My family's here, my nieces and nephews are here, and I do not like the hassle of moving. But I am going to be leaving this year. I'm going to go visit the country of Colombia, and I'm going to go visit some of the states in the South and see what I like the most. What are your favorite assets to own? You know, the most fun thing to own in real estate investing is short-term rentals. It's fun figuring out the puzzle. You're always like, what do I got to tweak? What do I got to do different? There's more moving parts, so there's more things to play with, right? You can trim expenses. You can try to add forms of revenue. You can take different pictures. You can add different amenities. Like if you're like me and your brain always needs something to be chewing on, this is a more fun asset class to get involved in. What motivates you to keep making content? Mostly it's feeding the employees that depend on me. Remember when I said we should all be taking on more responsibility? This is what I was getting at. I have a lot of employees. Well, I say employees, but most of them are probably 1099. But there's over 50 people whose well-beings, at times over 100, depend on me. And they need leads, and they need coaching, and they need systems, and they need software, and they need leadership. And I want to connect you, my audience, who wants to build wealth through real estate, with them, the people who work for me that adhere to my standards, who want to help people make wealth through real estate. And I want to be the bridge that brings the two together. Why do you shave your head? You know, this is funny. When I was young, I actually started to lose my hair. I had widow's peak. My hairline was thinning at like 19, 20. You see pictures of me when I was young, it is already starting. You can see the writing on the wall. When I signed up for the police academy, they make you shave your head. And it was sort of the beginning of the end for my old man follicles. They never recovered from that. I realized after the academy, I was going to either be embracing a comb over or a shaved head. And praise the Lord, I don't have an oddly shapen head. In fact, several people, my buddy Troy Fast being one of them, made me feel better. And his advice was, well, David, at least you don't have an ugly head. And that's why I shave it to this day. Also, it makes me run faster. There's less wind resistance, and it allows me quick access to the crystal ball that I use to predict the future and see things like inflation and changes in the tax code. All right, moving on. Our last segment of the show. It's what I call David's Deal. This is where we go over deals that I'm working on, problems I'm facing, new projects that I have, and I kind of verbal process my way through it. I've actually got a new book going to be coming out, and I think I'm going to self-publish it, and it's going to be called something like Better Than Cash Flow. It's going to involve the 10 ways that real estate actually makes money, not the one you've heard about, which is cash flow. Now, I feel like this is fitting for today's show because so many of you have heard about real estate investing as something you do specifically and solely for the cash flow. It's not true. Cash flow is a great way to make money in real estate, but what I call natural cash flow in the book is what you've all heard about cash flow being talked like. But what you've probably heard about with cash flow is what I call natural cash flow in the book, and it's one of 10 different ways. So I'm going to give you a quick breakdown. And then if you DM me the word join on Instagram, you'll get a link where you can join my newsletter. And there you'll hear updates on how the book is coming along. It's just being edited right now. The 10 ways that you make money in real estate. Number 1, buying equity. This is buying something beneath market value. Number 2, natural equity. This is buying something and letting the country deflating our currency, which leads to inflation, cause the prices to go up. Number 3, forced equity. This is what happens when you improve a property and make it worth more than it was before. You primarily do this by making it bigger or better. Now, each of these 10 ways will have their own chapter in the book, as well as chapters on how to combine them together to create a super deal. And number 4, market appreciation equity, which is buying in a market that is likely to appreciate more than the national average. That's a function of understanding supply and demand. Now you've got 4 cash flow methods also. Natural cash flow, that's what you've all heard of. This is buying a property, looking at the rent that it makes, subtracting the expenses, and having something left over. You've also got forced cash flow. This is where you add units to a property or change its use, like turning a traditional property into a medium or short-term rental to increase how much rent it's going to bring in. You've got buying cash flow, which is a way you can make money in real estate where you basically own shares of REITs or invest in other people's funds or syndications where you're just trading your money for cash flow that comes from work someone else did. Then you've got market appreciation cash flow, which is buying in a market where rents are likely to appreciate at a rate greater than the national average because companies are moving to an area or wealth is moving to an area where supply is constricted, forcing rents to go up. Your last 2 are going to be taxes. People greatly underestimate how much money real estate can save you, and a penny saved is a penny earned. And loan pay down, which I have an entire chapter of the book dedicated to understanding hacks, tips, and tricks that you can use to accelerate how quickly you pay down your loan based off of inside knowledge that I have as the owner of a mortgage company. So keep an eye out for that book, and make sure you subscribe to my text letter Behind the Shine by DMing me the word join on Instagram so you can hear about when it's released and how you can get it. All right, folks, that is the show for today, and I hope you liked it. I wanted to do a show on addressing the end game because so many people got into real estate for this purpose. I'm just going to monologue for a bit here. If you got into real estate because you wanted to get out of working, you're probably very disillusioned right now. In fact, I think there's a lot of people with bitterness, anger, or just at minimum confusion in their hearts because they thought by now they were supposed to be done working and it didn't work. And I went through that same struggle. I went through the same cycle. I went through the same emotional pattern. And I finally realized that is a myth. You don't get to stop working and paying attention. When you stop paying attention to your body, it gets weaker. When you stop paying attention to your business, it falls apart. When you stop paying attention to your children, they end up with the wrong friend group. There's not many examples of people that stopped paying attention to their kids and their kids went out and made better decisions because mom and dad weren't paying attention to them. You see what I'm getting at here? And now we have an economy that is completely turned around on us. We wanted to quit our jobs and it was difficult with the wind at our back pushing us forward. Now we've got a little bit of wind in our face as we're in a recession with some pretty bad inflation. And we're still holding to this dream that we should just quit, that we should have already be quit. There is a beach with a Mai Tai with my name on it waiting, and my butt is not in that sand and I am not happy. Look, let me give you some better life advice, folks, that I wish someone had told me. The goal is not to quit working. The goal is to find work you like more. The goal is not to exercise in ways you hate. The goal is to get your exercise in ways you enjoy. The goal is not to be miserable never eating food you love. The goal is to find a diet full of foods that you like or at minimum can tolerate that are still healthy. Did you get your heart broke? The goal is not to avoid women altogether. The goal is to find a girl that you love and love pursuing, not stop the pursuit of women. You see what I'm saying? Find a better way to achieve what's in your heart. I want people to find a better life. I want people to find ways to build income that they enjoy. I would love to show you how to do it through real estate. I don't want you to have the impression that there is a carrot at the end of this journey that 2 years later, after a couple duplexes, you don't have to work anymore. You're still going to be working. But let's all work together to build a community where we can enjoy the work we do. Do you like selling houses? Do you like people? Become a real estate agent. Do you like numbers? Become a loan officer. Do you like architecture? Become an engineer or an architect. Do you like business? Get into consulting. Are you a good leader of people? Start a company and hire people who do everything that I just said. Do you like making people happy and solving problems? Become a property manager. There are lots of options out there that are not leaving you stuck where you don't want to be, that also don't leave you exposed and at risk to an income stream that can turn off at any minute. Are you a short-term rental operator who bought in 2020, 2021, maybe the beginning of 2022, and you're seeing income down drastically? Have you thought about selling, but you can't because the property has lost its value by a significant amount? This is the reality for so many investors today. It is not sunshine and rainbows, and it is not as inspiring as you're going to hear on other podcasts. But that doesn't mean you can't do it. You just got to get real. So thank you for joining me today. Please make sure that you subscribe to this show on a podcast app, not just on YouTube. I want you to follow me on YouTube. So if you're listening to this on a podcast app, head over to youtube.com/@DavidGreen24 where you can follow me there. But if you're not listening on a podcast app, make sure you subscribe. If you have questions, you can head over to davidgreen24.com/ask to be featured on the show because I cannot make the show without people like you asking questions. You can also follow me on social media and you can still DM me and I will see the message and do my best to respond to it myself. All right, everybody, that's our show for today. If you liked it, if you feel encouraged, if you feel like I'm not crazy, I've just been being gaslit by the world, real estate investing in general, I'm happy to hear that. Please send this message and share it with somebody else who you think might need to hear it. I'll see you in the next episode of Real Talk Real Estate.